Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we'll be playing another premiere draft of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1 Pick 1 here, and it's a bit of a weaker pack. None of the super premium uncommons or commons for me. I do like all the things like hit the battlefield and make a map token or a 1/1, and there's a lot of really cheap, aggressive creatures that can do that, 1, 2, 3 mana things. Didn't get any of those here. We do have some decent commons. The Axe Straw Exploring when it hits the board is quite nice. The Inverted Iceberg, getting you some card draw and then a nice 6/6 for late in the game is solid. Like these a good bit. I also like the Stinging Cave Crawler for the Descend archetypes, the blue-black and green-black self-mill sort of decks, but I do find those to be some of the weaker decks in the format. Today I'm going to try out a Tishana's Tidebinder here. I think pretty much every playable creature has some kind of activated or triggered ability in this format, so being able to slam this onto the board and counter one of those is actually probably some pretty decent value, while just being a little instant speed kind of creature there. So we'll try out the Tidebinder here. I think I still prefer most of the common merfolk to this, because they all like make map tokens and explore and stuff, but this still seems pretty decent. For pick 2, not a big fan of this rare, the Abuelo's Awakening. It's not very good at reanimating artifact creatures since it makes them smaller than their base stats probably, and there aren't a ton of great non-creature artifacts to reanimate, and even when you get them, you can't cast this till super late in the game once they're in your graveyard. So I've played it a couple times, but don't think it's a super high pick. I don't think any of these uncommons are incredible. The Scavenger's fine for green-black Descend value, but that's a weaker and slower archetype. Pick 2, honestly, it's probably just a common here. Glorifier for getting some +1/+1 counters on your creatures aggressively, or the card I prefer, which is the Tinker's Tote, which is excellent at synergizing with a lot of the mechanics in the format. It's great with craft that wants to exile stuff from your grave, and it's great with all the stuff that wants to tap multiple permanents that you control, because this gives you 3 permanents off of the 1 spell, which is pretty awesome. So we'll take the Tinker's Tote there. Now there's an Oaken Siren, which is really nice in the blue-white color pair. You tend to play a good amount of artifacts there, as well as some ways to potentially buff up your creatures. So buffing up a creature that already has flying and vigilance plays really well. So I like Oaken Siren heading into blue-white craft with our Tinker's Tote. Yeah, looks like a decent place to be. Gold Fury Strider is a bit expensive, a bit slow, but it can do some stuff. Axe Straw, of course, is another one of my favorites in the pack, but we're in blue-white right now, and we can continue down that direction with the Oaken Siren pretty easily. Pick number 4. Not much for blue or white. Gem Guard is fine. It's a bit slow at 4 mana, but it can get a bunch of counters onto it. Cosmium Blast is really just good removal in defensive decks rather than more aggressive archetypes. I really like the red commons here. Big fan of Sunshot Militia, being able to tap down all your extra permanents that you're getting off of cards like Tinker's Tote and deal some extra damage to your opponent, but I also really like the Plundering Pirate, being a 3/2 that spits out another token when you play it, that token being a treasure token to help ramp out and dump your hand a little quicker. Huge fan of both of these, but I'm going to go for the Plundering Pirate here. I think it's just the best card in the pack. Pick 5 now, there's an additional Plundering Pirate, which I can take pretty happily. We could have taken a million Axe Straws here. If I pack 1, pick 1 to one of these, which I don't think would have been that unreasonable to take it over a Tidebinder, we probably would just have 2 Axe Straws right now, and then we take a Dreadmaw towards red-green dinos. But we're kind of far from that direction, and I think Plundering Pirate plays excellent in red-white or red-blue. Both of those care a lot about artifacts and playing a lot of permanents, so very happy to have another Plundering Pirate. Pick 6 now. Wow, every single pack, it feels like, opened up a Pathfinding Axe Straw, which is wild. Self-Reflection's really slow, but it can be decent value. Blast is good defensively only. I think I just take the Iceberg here, solid card for any blue-based artifact-focused deck. Take an Inverted Iceberg. Gives you that 1-for-1 value immediately by drawing the card when it plays it, and then just gives you the big end game 6/6 later on. Alright, Dynatomaton's perfectly reasonable as a 4-drop. It's an artifact creature, so it hits some good creature types there. Being both an artifact and a dinosaur, that can matter for different decks. I think Dynatomaton's pretty reasonable out of this pack. Things are starting to dry up a little bit, though. Definitely weaker than a lot of our previous picks. Pick number 8, there's the Whirlpool for defensive removal, or the pretty filler 2-mana 2/2 artifact creature that scries around a little bit. These are both kind of filler, not incredible. We don't have any removal yet. And I'm not committed to going blue-red. And even if I were, the competing cards here are just white spells. Dowsing Device can get a little bit of extra damage, but it's kind of all it does. It doesn't really end up paying off for the mana cost usually, so I'll just take the Quicksand Whirlpool here and get a little bit of removal if we head into the white direction. Pick 9 is mostly unplayable stuff. Marionette is fine for Descend decks, and Axedraw is very nice in green. Axedraw is by far the best card in the pack, so we'll just take it. Even though it's off color from everything we're doing, this pack is pretty much all unplayable. Really slow multicolor decks could use the Sunbird Stander or the Promising Vein, but that's not most decks in this format. I think these are the only cards that are moderately playable though, so I'll just take Promising Vein. Pick 11 now, can take a Hidden Nursery to have another random cave. The Didact Echo has not played very well in a format that has plenty of 1-mana creatures that can trade into it. Sure, it gives you 2-for-1 value when you play it, where you get a 3/2 and you draw a card, but if it's at the cost of your 5-mana card trading into a 1-mana creature, you didn't really get ahead there. You're still kind of falling behind because of that massive mana investment that you had to spend. Alright, we did pick 2 caves here, so I guess I'll take Gargantuan Leech over a bunch of pretty much unplayable cards, but I don't think we'll end up in that direction. I mean, Forgotten Monument, that's the thing. If we end up with a lot of caves, this will make all of our caves able to tap for mana of any color if we draw into it. Doesn't make the monument itself tap for mana of any color, which is rough. But then the card would probably be too good for constructed. Alright, so we've got a really cool kind of cave backup plan, since these caves are flying around the draft pod pretty late, and we have a Gargantuan Leech, but we kind of have to take one of the first 2 cards in this pack because they're both busted. Kitesail Larcenist is a 3-mana 2/3 flyer with Ward 1, already excellent, and when it hits the board, you turn one of your opponent's artifacts or creatures into just a treasure. As long as this sticks on board, it loses all its abilities. All they can do is sack it for a mana until they kill your Larcenist. So slapping temporary removal onto an evasive, cheap threat is just pretty incredible. It's a nice 2-for-1 tempo play. Super powerful, super good card. And the Zoetic Glyph is great as well with the amount of artifacts and artifact tokens in the format. This is really consistently basically a 3-mana 5/4 haste that also discovers when it dies. So both of those cards are absurd, and we kind of have to just take one of them. Speaking of absurd cards, now we have a Spyglass Siren. 1 mana for a 1/1 flyer that comes with a map token, so once you crack that map token to explore onto the Siren, you've either spent 1 and a blue for a 1/1 flyer that drew you a card, so you got a sick, efficient 2-for-1 that way, or you spent 1 and a blue for a 2/2 flyer that surveilled one when you played it, lets you look at the top and put it in the grave if you didn't want it. Either of those is an insanely good rate, and that's the worst case scenario on Spyglass Siren. That's if you don't have other ways to use your map token. Maybe buffing up something else, maybe using your glyph thing to turn that map into a 5/4. This card is insane, and we are happily going to take Spyglass Siren. We're definitely a blue deck, I can tell you that much. For pick 3 now, we see another very mediocre cave that's not going to happen. We do see a Master's Guide Mural towards blue-white. It's a ton of mana for a pretty aggressive format, so flip this thing. So that's not going to happen incredibly often. But the 5-mana 4/4 up front is solid enough to make it okay the couple of times you don't make it to 7. And when you do make it to 7 mana, this just takes over the game, making another 4/4 every turn that you play an artifact, which is pretty easy to do in this color pair, because a lot of your non-artifact cards are going to be things like the Spyglass Siren that spit out an artifact token anyway. So I'm a really big fan of the Guide Mural. Even though it's really expensive in this more aggressive format, I think it's still good enough to take here. try to push towards blue-white artifacts as the deck we play today. For pick number 4, we do see a wander glyph towards blue-red artifacts, but Deconstruction Hammer is actually quite nice when you have 1, 2, and 3 mana flyers in your deck. Just giving a Spyglass Siren, an Oaken Siren, or a Larcenist +1/+1 is kind of a big game. So this is a deck that can use equipment pretty well with the evasive cheap threats that we have in it. So I'm actually going to take Deconstruction Hammer here and try to stick to our blue-white Guide Mural deck. And I think we're committed enough now to go ahead and cut the off-color cards, but I'll keep them in the back of my head if something really weird happens that completely pushes us off these colors. For pick number 5, Puzzle Door is solid early game card draw for these decks because it leaves an artifact in your graveyard to craft with later. You can then exile this from your grave to flip your Guide Mural without having to do anything with your stuff that's on board, so I think Puzzle Door is fine. The Whirlpool also fine if we end up incredibly low on removal, and we kind of are right now. We only have 1 hard removal spell, we have 1 Whirlpool, and that's it. The Larcenist is kind of soft removal because they can save their card from it if they kill the Larcenist. It's also Compass Gnome if I want to try to go after the Cave deck. I don't think this is going to be the draft to do it. I will try to play the Cave deck at least once, but it's one of the slowest, grindiest decks in the format, so it probably plays pretty poorly. So I don't think I'm going to try to do the Cave deck unless I open up one of the Cave like rares. Then I'll go for it. Like the 5 mana sorcery that can search for like 3 caves out of your deck, that's probably the most consistent way to make sure all of your cave payoffs can work out for you. A little bit of a hard choice here. We've got an Iceberg and an Oaken Siren. Both would be awesome, but I'm going to go for the Oaken Siren for another card to throw that Deconstruction Hammer onto. Get a lot of good damage coming in the sky. Pick 7 does not really have anything for us. We've got a couple combat tricks. Well, just one combat trick, the Family Reunion. It's not a very good one, but Cave Worm is definitely not for this archetype. That is definitely a Descend-oriented card you want to have a lot of self-mill for. You know what, I think Family Reunion might be weak enough to speculate towards a Defossilize. Probably not. But that might be okay if we end up in a black-focused cave deck thing. No, that just doesn't seem like something we're going to end up pivoting onto. Do not really like counterspells in this format much, because so much can get dumped on the board early before you can hold up the mana for the counterspell. They don't stay super relevant by the time you have the mana for them. So I'm just going to take the Runaway Boulder. The Blowgun, I guess, is another equipment to buff up our flyers, but the difference between equipping for 1 and equipping for 2 is pretty massive. So I'll just throw a Boulder in for now. And alright, here I'll take another Deconstruction Hammer, be pretty happy with it. Pick 10, grab a Hidden Cataract. Might end up cutting it if our curve ends up fast enough. Now let's take some random caves, just in case, I guess, when there's nothing else to take that's on color. Alright, so we have 15 non-land playables, which means that we need to find 8 more spells to put into this deck in the final pack. So, gotta do some work here. We need about a little bit over half the cards we draft out of this pack to make the cut. And this is a pretty unlucky start to that. There's an excellent green dinosaur. If I could see the future and I had like the 4 Axe Draw deck right now, and then we opened a Hammer Skull, that would have been super sweet. So a little sad, but I don't think I like drafted the wrong colors here or anything. I think it was just a really weirdly large amount of Axe Draws being opened for the most part. And then obviously opening up a Hammer Skull is another big reason to be in green. Yeah, we didn't open any good blue or white cards, so we have to just take the minecart, which is fine. I really like taking this pack 1 pretty early because it can fit into anything and be a super serviceable card. But once you're fully committed into your color pair, like it's better to just take a really good on-color card than the minecart. There just aren't any on-color cards, so we'll play the minecart and it'll be fine. Pick 2, actually an interesting choice here between the Zoetic Glyph and the Unstable Glyph Bridge. Both of these cards are pretty absurd. There's also the Old Tech Cloud Guard. Could I just have had any of these three in the other pack, and then I would take one and get another one here? Because none of these cards are coming back. They're all insane for any 2-color deck that's in their color pair. So like the Unstable Glyph Bridge is a board wipe that then also turns into a creature later. I feel like this is a big enough bomb to just take it here. Zoetic Glyph is so tempting though, because it can end games really quickly when you put it onto your map token or your Siren and you have a 5/4 haste out of nowhere. And of course the Cloud Guard, nuts as well, getting 2 creatures off the 1 card. And now pack 3, pick 3. This is the direction we wanted to be getting past from last pack as well, because now we're getting a Cloud Guard and a Ruin Lurker Bat as our choices. Both are incredible cards. The Ruin Lurker Bat is really good at wearing a Deconstruction Hammer, turning into a 2/2 flying lifelinker, which is really nice. The Cloud Guard is just super great for its mana cost, a 3/2 flyer and a 1/1 gnome. We've got nothing at 4 mana right now. Neither of these cards is going to come back, so which fits into the deck better? I think it's Cloud Guard by a tiny bit, but both of these cards are exceptional. Pick number 4 now. It's going to be a Glorifier of Suffering here, most likely. We only have 1 treasure producer for the Sentinel of the Nameless City, but it is a strong enough card to consider splashing in with more treasure. I guess treasures and 1 Promising Vein. But a 3-mana 3/4 that makes a map token when you play it and every time it attacks, and it has Vigilance, is a pretty insane card. But Glorifier Suffering, also very, very good when we can put a +1/+1 counter onto an Oaken Siren. And just the Glorifier itself. I think Glorifier is going to be super good for the deck, and we don't have great fixing to splash in the green rare. And now for pick 5, a Counterspell, a gigantic top end card, or a 2/1 little Discover Dork. We'll take the little Discover Dork, I guess. Pick number 6, another Tinker's Tote versus another Guide Mural is actually a bit of a hard choice, because I don't want too much when it comes to really high mana value stuff, and now I already have Guide Mural and Glyph Bridge. I have 2 5-drops I'm already definitely playing. This will be my 3rd 5-drop, and Tinker's Tote works really well with Glorifier of Suffering, as well as just being a great card in general. I think I'd take the cheaper card here. I think I'd take the Tote over the Guide Mural, weirdly enough. For pick number 7, we're definitely not going to play Song of Stupefaction. It's just not a very good card. We're probably not playing Helping Hand, but it's the only other on-color card, so it is a maybe if I don't find enough playables. Pick number 8, there is a Benthasar for the cave pile. Guess I could put Promising Vein and Forgotten Monument and Volatile Fault in there, play some colorless lands just to have enough caves that this might be a 6-drop that draws 2 when we play it. Doesn't feel worth playing so many colorless lands, though. I'll just take the combat trick. We'll grab an Acrobatic Leap. Pick 9's got nothing much. So I could take a Compass Gnome to put a Hidden Cataract on top, but that's not great either. Just take another Acrobatic Leap, I suppose. Pick number 10. Whole lot of nothing for anybody. Just throw a Gargantuan Leech into our bonus pile. Get another Forgotten Monument into our bonus pile. Get a Thousand Moons Infantry for a filler card if we need a 23rd playable. And this is going to be an easy deck to deck build, because this draft pod was highly contested. Basically everything but green. If we had jumped onto the Axejaw train early and just stuck to green, we would have had probably the best deck we could have ended up in the pod. But I don't think there were many good blue, white, or really blue, white, black, or red cards. Green was like the only thing we saw. Some cards going kind of like unreasonably late. Some like powerful cards going late in that color. All right, so if we put all the on-color stuff in, these are our 42 cards. There's 9 creatures and 16 non-creatures. There's no way that's true, right? Because we've got Iceberg and Glyph Bridge are basically 2 more creatures. Guide Mural's another creature. Tinker's Totes are 2 more creatures. Okay, so it is technically true. So we have 9 creatures plus Glyph Bridge, Iceberg, Guide Mural, 2 Tinker's Tote. That's 14 creatures. So we just 100% cut non-creature cards here. Helping Hand does look like it can reanimate basically any creature in our deck. So it has 8 targets, because we have 9 creatures total, one of which is a 4-drop, so we have 8 targets for Helping Hand. So I guess we play that to sort of up the creature count. Probably cut Pirate Hat and Family Reunion. Just play the 1-mana tricks and the big 6-drop removal spells, I guess. Sure? Alright. I mean, doesn't look super great, but I think this was a draft pod with a lot of very competitive drafters all fighting over the premium cards in the strongest colors of the format in the Jeskai color pair, so it was going to be hard to end up with anything great. I think the one spot we could have had a great deck was jumping on the Axe Draw train here. But we've ended up with a fine pile with some mediocre filler like some combat tricks and stuff. I think this could still pan out fine. I wouldn't be surprised, although I would be a little disappointed if this deck does better than our last deck, the blue-black deck, where like no one was drafting blue-black Descend. We got multiple bombs and everything. Wouldn't be that surprised if this deck, where our color pair is heavily contested, and we've got a lot of filler in the deck, still does better than that just because of how powerful these colors are in general, but I guess we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. This looks like a pretty solid hand to me. Any hand that starts with a turn 1 Spyglass Siren is going to look pretty good. And we've got some follow-through as well, some 3-drops to play. Which makes the curve pretty perfect, because turn 2 we can crack a map and play an Acrobatic Leap if we need to. Playing against a fellow blue-white deck, we'll see if it was more open in their draft pod. There's an Oaken Siren to start things off. Use the map on the Siren. Find a runaway boulder. Honestly, I don't hate that. I already have 5 of the 6 mana I need. They probably don't chump block 2 damage immediately, but I guess we'll find out. They do not chump block. So against a blue-white deck, there's a lot of creatures with enter the battlefield effects like Spyglass Siren. There's also a lot of artifacts like Tinker's Tote that enter the battlefield and make 1/1s. All of the craft cards have an enter the battlefield effect, and then they flip later after they've gotten their initial value. So I think in this matchup, we're going to hold up the mana for Tideminder. Hope they play something that we can counter with its ability next turn. And let's see what instant speed removal they have here to counteract our Acrobatic Leap. We're going to Eaten by Piranhas the Siren, so it loses the flying, so we don't get to block the Oaken Siren. And they're going to cast another one here. Well, it's still a 2/2 on the ground to keep beating down with, and all their creatures have flying anyway, so still worked out kind of fine. Acrobatic Leap, instead of trading into an Oaken Siren, our combat trick traded into an Eaten by Piranhas, got that out of the way for one of our potentially scarier threats later. Couple damage from the Oaken Sirens. Our opponent does cast a Waterwind Scout, so we can get rid of their map token here while we resolve our 3/2. Seems reasonable enough to me. Loses the flying as well for the turn, which is very funny, but not super relevant here. There's a Cartographer's Companion, so that one will manage to get the map token. Oh, does it permanently lose the flying? Oh yeah, as long as Tidebinder's still on board, it's just not a flyer anymore. That is very interesting. Okay, I could crack the deconstruction hammer to give my siren flying again, but I don't think that's worth it. We're probably just using the deconstruction hammer for +1/+1. Yeah, I wish I had one more mana here so I could play this and equip it and still cast the infantry this turn. I think instead I'm just going to play the infantry and the hammer. Alright, trade the siren into the companion. Seems fine with me. Here's our 2/4 that untaps itself, just a 2/4 vigilance. I guess we'll just make it a 3/5 and keep jamming. They're going to crack the map token they got from the cartographer onto the Oaken Siren. Oh wow, and they hit a Mischievous Pup, which is going to let them return the Waterwind Scout to their hand and replay it, so it gains the flying and they get the map off of it. Pretty gross. That is a good card to have here against our Tidebinder. Now we're taking 3 in the sky because they got to use a map token on an Oaken Siren, so they have a 2/3 flying vigilance. There's our Tinker's Totes. Got the mana to do that and slap a deconstruction hammer onto one of these bad boys. Probably put it on the Tidebinder because it deals more damage. Since they can just pick up the Waterwind Scout in a second anyway, matters a lot less if the Tidebinder dies here. They could have the infantry just bounce off the siren, the 2/3 siren, but then they are putting it at risk of dying to a combat trick. We did play an acrobatic leap earlier, so they might be scared. We might get a free point of damage here. If we don't, it's no big deal, the infantry will untap itself. And if they block with the 2/3 and the 2/2 to where they're going to kill the infantry, that's fine too, because then I'll kill the 2/2 that they could get a map token off of and give flying to again. Alright. Was not expecting that, but I guess we will kill the 2/2 flyer. They don't get their map token anymore off of the pup stuff, but that means they might have something else good to do with the pup, which has me a bit nervous. Ooh, alright. That's solid value. They get to pick up the iceberg with the pup to draw another card. The race is looking pretty reasonable here. Pretty even on board. Do draw into the 6th mana for the boulder. So I can just hammer the 6/6 whenever they flip the iceberg later, which is pretty nice. I don't think I just hold up the Tidebinder to blow up the iceberg in response to them trying to pick it up or anything. I think I'm still attacking with this as a 4/3, because making one of these a 2/2 doesn't give me any attacks. So I probably just want to attack with the Tidebinder and have a boulder to play. We can boulder the 2/3 Oaken Siren and deconstruction hammer a 6/6 whenever they flip the iceberg. Alright, so they're going to trade the pup into the Tidebinder. Unless I boulder the pup. I think I'm bouldering an Oaken Siren still. While they're mostly tapped out, and I still have Deconstruction Hammer for the 6/6. So the current board state, I can make one of these a 2/2 and keep getting in for 2 damage. And then if they flip into a 6/6, we can blow up the 6/6. But they do draw an Old Tech Cloud Guard, which is a phenomenal spell. A 3/2 flyer and a 1/1 makes the board significantly worse for us. We can still get attacks in with one of these gnomes, but their counterattacks are for a lot of damage. Glorifier with a boulder on board is pretty dang spicy. It's a good draw here. I will not have the mana to blow up an artifact here, but I can just jam in. And now we are trying to race pretty equivalently. We actually do trade into the flyer. Not bad at all. Council of Echoes. Gross. Not the kind of card I'd usually recommend for a blue-white deck in the format, but having the Descend for it does make it a great curve topper here for our opponent. Hits the board and kills our gnome. Now probably trades into the Glorifier. Trading up into a 4/4 flyer is still pretty good. I think that is more relevant than holding the Glorifier untapped just to blow up an iceberg. Alright, yeah, we hit them down to 6. They are not going to block there. Now we're down to 6. 6 life to 6 life. But there's a crewmate. S+ tier uncommon. It's like a 62% win rate or something, which is insane. Because it is consistently a 2/1 that also draws the best card in your top 4. So it's basically Impulse and a 2/1 all off of one card. And we've just got lands over here, sadly, which puts us to super dead on board next turn. Guess technically not quite dead. If I don't attack here, I can block the 2/1 on the ground and blow up the Oaken Siren with the Decommission Hammer. Take 5 damage and go to 1 life. But if our opponent has yet more gas, which is very possible, yep, then we're super dead. 0-1 heading into game 2. Here we are for game 2 now. No proactive plays till turn 4 is really, really bad in this format. But the quality of the spells is very high, and I can exile one of their creatures turn 3, and we're on the play. So that means I exile an attacking 2-drop if I need to. Yeah, that's kind of early game. Hopefully that is early enough, being able to exile their 2-mana creature when it's attacking. There's their own Deconstruction Hammer. We do hit the 4th mana for the Cloud Guard. There is an Oaken Siren, which I can't actually use the Whirlpool on unless they tap it for mana, but if they do, I think I might do that. Get rid of a Mana Dork that also gets scary with any counters or equipment on it. Like if they put the hammer on it, it's 2/3 flying vigilance. I guess with Acrobatic Leap and the ability to put 2 creatures on the board next turn, we probably just try to trade or combat trick that. Yeah, and Whirlpool the much bigger gem guard. That threatens to be massive. Okay. Opponent does not want to put a +1/+1 counter on the gem guard, which I'm very okay with. Kind of weird. Ooh, Unstable Glyph Bridge. So now we have a board wipe if things go wrong. I think I have to just treat this as my plan for if things go wrong. I don't think I can afford to just not play Cloud Guard because it would die to the board wipe. Because then I'm doing nothing here, taking a big hit from the Gem Guard. And if I don't draw a 5th land, then I'm super dying. So the Gem Guard is one of the creatures they can tap 2 cards to put a counter on it. And because it's its own ability, they can tap itself and the hammer to put a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's what I thought it was weird that they decided not to do there. Okay, so now they have an Oaken Siren with a glyph on it, which is a nightmare. Even with an acrobatic leap, my Cloud Guard becomes a 4/5, which still just trades into the Siren. But I guess I can do that later, so we take this for now. I could also deconstruction hammer the glyph. So we spend 1 to put the hammer onto one of our creatures and hold up 3 for Whirlpool, 1 for Leap. If we top deck a land. Sick. Okay, so we top decked a land. So I think I don't want a Glyph Bridge till they get the Discover off the Glyph. Ideally. So I can put a hammer onto the gnome, and now I'm threatening to blow up the Glyph. But I'm just going to Whirlpool Leap, probably. Wherever I need to. Maybe chump the Gem Guard and just try to deal with the Siren and get that Discover out of the way. Incredible value spell. Staunch Crewmate hits the board here. Never misses. Really just never misses, does it? Waylaying Pirates to the hand. There's an Iron Paw Aspirants. Now we know what we're going to leave them with our board wipe. Leave them with a 1/2 Aspirants. Buff up the crewmate. So, I guess can block the Cloud Guard and blow up their Zoetic Glyph and chump the Gem Guard. Stay at 12 here. I think that's solid. I guess it doesn't matter if I blow up the Glyph or the Siren. Either way, they get the Discover. And I kill the Siren. So I guess we just target the Siren. I guess at that point I could have had Cloud Guard chump the Gem Guard, so I'd still have a 1/1 on board after the Glyph Bridge. Alright, Nautilus, that's just also going to die to the board wipe because I'm going to let them keep the Aspirant as their 1 creature. Yeah, no, I didn't think that fully through there. We should have done Cloud Guard chumps the Gem Guard and keep a 1/1 token post board wipe. Yeah, 2 cards in their hand after a board wipe. I think we do it. They can deconstruction hammer our Glyph Bridge to stop us from turning it into a creature. But they'll be able to do that after we turn it into a creature later in the game anyway. As long as they have any creature on their board, they can slap a hammer onto it. Hoverstone Pilgrim, that's a little weird. I guess everybody's gotten to the point they have to run a little bit of filler, even in the premium color pairs. Because we are running cards that are a little bit weird too. For sure. If I just flip the Glyph Bridge, they're just going to spend 4 to kill it. So we're doing something else here. 2 for a Siren, 3 for a Whirlpool, but I can't hit the Ward card with that if I do that. I'm just taking 2 or 3 in the sky for now, I guess. I can Guide Mural out of 4/4, which will be big enough to maybe kill a Pilgrim if it doesn't have an equipment on it when we use an Acrobatic Leap. Or I could literally just sit here and try to Whirlpool the Pilgrim for 5. Yeah, sure. Let's just Whirlpool the Pilgrim for 5. Because it doesn't have Vigilance. And we only take 1 damage if I kill the Pilgrim. Just take 1 aspirant point of damage. And then this leads into potentially a really good turn when we have 6 mana total, where I can either boulder something or I can play Guide Mural and actually hold up the leap. Okay, well that's gross. Buff the entire board with Malamet Warscribe here. Now we're going to take 4 for the turn. If I play any blockers, they're just going to tap them down with the not the Warscribe, the Waylaying Pirates. But that's what we wait for the 6th mana for Acrobatic Leap for. So they're going to play their thing, stun it, attack with both. I'm going to Acrobatic Leap and kill the Warscribe. Acrobatic Leap's actually going to be insane here. Because not only does it untap it to block and kill the Warscribe, oh no it doesn't, because stun counters change the way those cards work. That was my Magic Boomer mindset going on, where I was treating this like a Frost Lynx or something. Okay. Yeah, these cards used to be, you could do an untap to get out of the stuns, but now that they're stun counters, they are stunned regardless. Shoot. Well, then we had no shot. I don't think I have a way out here. I can boulder 1 card, but I need to stop 3 here. So stop 1 with this, stop 1 with this. That's 2 out of 3. I can't play the Siren and flip the Glyph Bridge. If I just play the Glyph Bridge, all I gotta do is attack all 3. I mean, maybe there's something I could puzzle door into, but I don't think we've got an out here. Oh, that's 3 cards. So I have to go chump, chump, chump here. But I get 1 more turn, I guess. And they could just decommission hammer the 4/4 and make me chump with the other 2. So I can't even threaten a trade. That is the play. Well, now we know we can flip the Glyph Bridge at least, so if our opponent doesn't read the card and they cast a spell pre-combat next turn, then we'll get more turns from there. Because it'll stop them from attacking if they cast a spell that turn. So we just flip the Glyph Bridge and hope they don't read it. And then pass the turn. And maybe they cast a spell. Because they get excited during main phase 1. And if they do, then we're still in this game. But our literal only hope at this point is that our opponent misplays very badly. They did not cast a spell. And them's the breaks. We are 0-2, heading into game 3. Here we are on the play for game 3. We've got a 2-drop creature into a 3-drop creature, so we've got some early stuff. I'm going to play my tap land turn 1, probably play and equip the hammer in the same turn later on. So here's the Cataract, pass the turn. There's the puzzle door. Get our Conservator out. There's an Oaken Siren to start things off for our opponent. I would be super okay with a trade here. We do not get one. Play the Iceberg and get the hammer out, or I can hold up a Tidebinder to try to counter a thing against a blue deck. I'm going to hold up a Tidebinder here. think they should have plenty of abilities we might be able to stop. Oh, we can actually stop the puzzle door from drawing them a card here. Guess I activated ability? That's actually really disgusting. They're just not going to do anything. Well, now that I'm thinking about it and I know that I can stop them from puzzle dooring, I'm just going to hold on to this thing and do that. Yeah, that's so nasty. Unless they have a counterspell. Do they have their own way to counter the ability? Okay, that does not work how they want it to. We still countered the thing. They've just turned a 3-2 into a 1-1, because now that it's on the board, it doesn't do anything else from that point on, so I think that went from good value to us, or for us, to great value for us, that we got them to also eaten by piranhas. We might even get them to spend another card just to stop an acrobatic leap. Or we'll trade an acrobatic leap into an oaken siren, which is fine. Alright, cool. Well, I think all around that was some solid value for us. So I'm liking how this game is starting. Now we get to Cloud Guard. They do have Confounding Riddle. They do have a counterspell. They're going to crack the map token on the Siren, seeing a Master's Guide mural on top. And this is definitely one of those conspiracy theory arena shuffler style games here. Well, arena matchmaking kind of games more than anything. Of like, this is our third round against blue-white. Third mirror match in a row. Well, there's the 6th mana to flip the iceberg next turn. We have a 6/6 on this board. Opponent has still not found a white source on turn 5. There's a Merfolk Cave Diver for a 2/4. Every time they explore, it gets +1/+0 unblockable. There's our Glyph Bridge if we need that later. No artifacts in our grave is actually kind of awkward. I guess I'll just discover with the conservator so we have an artifact in the grave to craft with later for value. And I can also play and equip the hammer this turn while doing that. Find a careening minecart, which can give us treasure tokens so we have even more tools to craft with. 3/5 isn't any better against a 2/4. Just get a 2/2 here, I guess. I don't think it matters too much where we put that. There's another Charticore sticking for that white source. And they're still not there. 6th island here from our opponent. There's a Waylaying Pirates with no artifact on the board for no stun. Find another white source over here. Let's just get our 6/6 down. I don't think we're board wiping right now. Yeah, we're just jamming out a 6/6. Guess I can screw the minecart and put a hammer on it. So it will trade into one of their creatures if they block. And we can get the treasure out of it for later. Alright, I don't hate that. Let's get this 2-4 out of the way. Pretty annoying stat line. There's a Master's Guide mural for another 4-4. Now we can just hammer the guide mural so it won't flip. I guess we just hammer it if they try to flip it, actually. Okay. How does craft work? Excellent artifact control. Or an artifact from graveyard. Exile this card, return it, transform it under someone's control. Wait, so I can't respond because it is exiled as part of the cost? So as soon as that ability goes on the stack, the card is exiled, I think. Not 100% confident, but I think I can't respond, so I'm just gonna pop it right now. Well, we're discovering. What lies in the hidden cataract below. A kite sail larcenist? Okay. That's a good one. I guess if they use instant speed removal on the larcenist, they can kill our Tidebinder for free, but I don't think that is a good reason not to attack with it, because it won't change our board too much if they do that, and if they don't do that, getting the extra point of damage in is pretty important. Confounding Riddle, they're going to dig through the top 4 cards of their deck, pick one to put in their hand and the rest into the graveyard, and they have their own unstable Glyph Bridge. Talk about a mirror match right there. Tinker's Tote is our draw. Well, we resolved that. Our Glyph Bridge does not actually do anything right now. So we just play that and pass. Did I end up running a Pirate Hat in here? No, so I don't need to hold on to these extra lands. Against a non-black deck. Against black, I should in case of discard stuff, but... Alright, there's the Wander Glyph. Take 2. Get a little gain 3 for crafting nonsense in the grave. Let me just reverse Glyph Bridge it up. I guess if I attack, I don't get to cast spells here. So I don't attack before this. I just Glyph Bridge. Crafting does not count as casting it, right? Yeah, just return it transformed. Cool. Glyph Bridge versus Glyph Bridge. Who would win? Guess I probably shouldn't have just played the Tinker's Toad at all. All I did was just sack my 1/1s to it. And I had the Glyph Bridge at the time that I cast it. Alright, there's the Waylaying Pirates. But no artifact on board to actually stun the Wanderglyph, which is nice. Ooh, there's our own Master Guide mural. God, it is such a mirror match, it's absurd. So they're down to 2, and here's our 4/4. There's a Waylaying Pirates again with no artifacts on their board anymore. Now I can just flip the guide mural. Get a 4/4 every single turn. I can puzzle door too, because the Wanderglyph is one-sided. It doesn't stop me from doing anything. Just them. And we just want to draw another artifact. I guess I can do that during their end step. Not that it matters when I'm empty-handed. But just for fun. There's the concession from our opponent. Definitely didn't play it out perfectly. I think the only real big punt there, of course, was Tinker's Toading, and then deciding to Glyph Bridge next turn anyway. Probably should have thought a little harder real quick and seen, like, what's my out to this Glyph Bridge going to be? I'm just going to Glyph Bridge their Glyph Bridge, and since I'm just going to do that, if I Tinker's Toad, all I'm doing is throwing that in the graveyard. So, shouldn't have done that, but not the worst there. Not the worst at all. We do find a victory in the end in the 3rd mirror match in a row. And I think that was the closest to a literal mirror match where we have like almost the exact same decks. And now we are going to get at least 1 win out of the event, but that 1 win only means 50 more gems total if I just immediately lose the next game. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can rally into a few more wins, get some more gems back out of this event. We are 1-2 heading into game 4. Here we are now for game 4 with a mono blue hand, but it's got some really powerful things going for it. We have Iceberg, Conservator, and Oaken Siren all castable, and any land lets us cast Larcenist, one of the best cards in our whole deck. So I'm going to keep the hand and hope for the best here. We did hit a land, so we know we can play a Larcenist on turn 3 if we want to. 2 more islands is really awkward. But still not useless. We can cast 2 2-mana spells on turn 4 now. Could also just Oaken Siren into casting both the Iceberg and the Conservator next turn. There's an Armored Kincaller from our opponent, turn 3, so 2 mana 2/3 into 3 mana 3/3 gain some life. Pretty nice curve. And there is our white source if we need it here. Kind of want to save the Larcenist knowing they have a 6 mana 3/5 flyer coming up eventually. So I don't think I want to just Larcenist a 3/3 or a 2/3 right now. Let's get the Iceberg and the Conservator down. Find a Tinker's Totes, which I am a fan of. Oof, still taking some hits from this beef over there. Some high toughness stuff, all of it at least 3 toughness, so we can't kill them with 2/1s. So we just take all the damage down to 13. And there's a buried treasure for a treasure token, and then they discover later. There's a deconstruction hammer, which is pretty nice. It's going to make sure that we actually have the power and toughness to stop some of this stuff. So now I'm actually going to do that here. We'll play Thousand Moons Infantry and turn it into a 3... Oh. I don't have double white, so I can't do that. Well, Thousand Moons still does block some stuff here, at least. But the idea was going to be hopefully getting it to 3-5 stats, so they just don't attack with anybody unless they kill the infantry. This is looking like combat tricks to me, but I suppose we'll find out how bad those combat tricks could be. I mean, one of their cards in hand is a 6-mana 3/5 flyer, so it would have to be the one unrevealed card. Has to be a combat trick. Alright, cool. Actually get a solid block there. And they're just going to crack the treasure. Yep, crack the treasure for the Sandwing, and now we can slam the Larcenist down and get the reconstruction or deconstruction hammer going at the same time. This is going to be a big turn for us. Big turn for us. I could even deconstruction hammer their treasure token later. That's a possible choice to make. So that even if they kill the Larcenist eventually, they won't get the Sandwing back. But the +1/+1 is looking kind of valuable here. Alright, they discover a Kincaller, which is fine. We've got the 3/5 now against that. And we're just kind of poking them in the sky at this point. Acrobatic Leap is the draw. We can make the infantry a 4/8. 8 toughness. They have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power on the board, so we can make sure the infantry doesn't die. We just trade a leap into one of their creatures. Sure. Could also trade leap into one of their creatures with the conservator. Unless they go double block there, 1 block there. That would be kind of bad for me. I guess let's Spyglass Siren, see if we can get a +1/+1 counter going here. +1 counter on the Conservator would actually be pretty sick. There we go, we find a Helping Hand, which actually is not bad. Oaken Siren at worst, and if Larcenist dies, then we're just going to Helping Hand back the Larcenist in a little bit. Okay. I'm going to send in these. I don't want to attack with the Conservator unless I have 4 mana up to do the Discover. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7. Again, I think I get to just trade a leap into the Kincaller here and keep the infantry on board. And I do. They hit a land off the top. Their final spell is an Adaptive Gem Guard, which we can definitely do some outracing with our Larcenist in the sky. And I can just deconstruction hammer the Gem Guard instead of their treasure token at this point. There's our Helping Hand, which I don't want to do right now. 4 mana total to move the hammer and use it on this Gem Guard. Okay. Guess I'm not going to attack with the Conservator this turn anyway, so we'll put it on that one. Threaten to have another Acrobatic Leap. I highly doubt they choose not to block, but since the infantry is going to untap itself anyway. No reason not to send this in when they have no cards in hand. Dusk Rose Reliquary to exile the Larcenist. So I can't Helping Hand. That is brutal. Negate any resurrection stuff I could have here. Well, that's a rough one. I can flip a 6/6 or trade off a Conservator and Discover. Taking 3 damage in the sky next turn. Gotta try to outrace that somehow. Tinker's Tote will gain us 3 life, so it takes 3 swings to kill us. We can go for some big attacks here. Alright. Get 4 damage in. Get the 6/6 blocker for the aspirants. And a 6/6 attacker to try to outrace them with. There's a Kinjali's Dawn Runner. That's a very live draw. 2/2, a double strike, and surveil 1. That paleontologist can let them exile dinos from their grave to recast them, so that's like drawing 3 cards off 1. They draw this, and now they can also recast kin callers from their grave. They can also use it to exile a card from our graveyard to stop our helping hand from working. So that is really not ideal. And this having double strike means it kills the dig site conservator without dying. Also super horrible. There's a lot of issues going on right now. And they're going to gain 3 life every time they cast one of those 3/3s. Oh dear. Alright, so I kind of want to play Cloud Guard here, which means I need the Spyglass Siren to chump block, so I untap the Siren here. And we have a Gnome to chump block the Dawn Runner on the ground. They send that in instead of untapping the Titan. Oh, they're gonna let us kill the double striker here? I mean, we kill both of these. We lose the 6/6, but we kill both of these. Alright. They're down to 7. So we know what their next draw is. We know they draw Paleontologist. That costs 2. They spend 2 to exile 1 from grave, then they have 3 mana left. So next turn, they're going to play a 3/3 and gain 3 life. 2/2 on ground and a 3/3 on ground, gain 3. They're going to be at 10. But they aren't going to get any more damage attacking us. So I could just exile all those dinos from grave so they just have a 2/2 instead. And they don't gain any life. We do that with the Conservator, and then we helping hand this turn, because we know they're not going to draw a kill spell for the Siren. We can chump the Sandwing. Next turn. I think we do this. Dino, good card, good card. Put in hand. There we go. I wish I had double white up here now. I have to helping hand now or it's not going to work. Because they're going to exile my thing. I kind of actually think I take the 2-1 on the ground now at this point. Alright, so now they just have a 2/2. And we chump if they attack, and then we crack back with everybody with a leap up to win the combat. Okay, cool. Leap wins the combat, Tinker's Tote or the Cloud Guard keeps us alive. No blocks. Fair enough. Go to 3. Tote gives us multiple blockers on the ground and life gain. And I get to hold leap up to have another flying blocker if the 3 life gain isn't going to be enough to survive here. So how could I die here? They could have the 1 and a green +3/+3 trample trick. Do we play around that with an acrobatic leap? I don't have to think about it. Our opponent concedes, and we have found a second victory, trying to claw our way back up to an average record at least. We are 2-2 now, heading into game 5. Hand is unkeepable. This hand is perfectly reasonable. Siren into Larcenist. I like the helping hand with these two. I'm actually going to ditch the puzzle door. I guess I can Siren and then use the map turn 2, and that should all but guarantee a land, because if it's not a land, I can mill it. And then I can puzzle door also to dig for the land. Yeah, it's probably fine to ditch the land. Find a runaway boulder, which I can cycle if we're not going to make it to 6 mana, which is possible. And here we are for another blue-white matchup. We did get 1 game against white-green instead of blue-white, but we are right back at it again. Alright, I can use the map or I can use the puzzle door for the turn. Probably a little better to be mana efficient and use the puzzle door, actually. Lodestone Needle, they're going to stun our 1/1 dork. R.I.P. Opponent plays their own puzzle door. And draws a card off of it. We'll find an Oaken Siren, so we've got something to do other than Larcenist, because we don't want a Larcenist when there's nothing great to turn into a treasure anyway. And our map, unfortunately, finds us a land, but at least it got it out of the way. There's an Oltec Cloud Guard from our opponent. 4 out of 6 mana for the runaway boulder, so let's just Larcenist here. And boulder the next threat. There's an Otaclan landmark, which turns into a 1/4 flyer when they craft it with an artifact. A 1/4 flyer that can give another attacking creature flying every time. But they're going to craft the needle to start exploring every turn. Find a gem guard on top, and now they've got a 2/2 instead of a 1/1. Well, we get all our damage and they don't have any flying, and we hit a deconstruction hammer, so we get 1 more damage in. I could alternatively hold up the boulder, but I think it's better to get more damage in. And I've got artifact removal to hold up here instead, so I'm still kind of holding up interaction. There's their 6th mana. Explore with the dork again. Do I want to just kill this because I counter their explorer and I kill a 2/2 or a 3/3 with this hammer? I don't hate killing the gnome, but I guess at that point I could just kill the compass anyway. I kind of want to just keep all my flyers though. as big as possible. Speed up the clock here. What do you have right now, opponent? Now I can boulder without tapping the siren. They have the 4 damage to an attacker or blocker. No, they have unlucky drop to put it back on top of my library, which saves the Cloud Guard to use on blocks right now. Okay. Well, I'll put it back on top. And I think I'm just going to Helping Hand my Oaken Siren if they block it. I guess they could block the Spyglass. Yeah, that's annoying. I guess I have to boulder. Should have done it pre-combat for 1 more damage. I don't know why I didn't register that that was a block they could make. I mean, I could still Helping Hand the Siren after that, but we wouldn't be killing the Cloud Guard, which is not good. Another landmark. Plenty of 1/4 flyers available to just have an annoying amount of blocks. There's the Adaptive Gem Guard. Nothing in the sky right now, then. Explore again. Ooh, their next draw is Quicksand Whirlpool, so they can exile anything they want. Which is going to be our Larcenist, which is not going to be in the grave. Helping Hand, massive underperformer. I don't think I'm ever putting this card in my deck again at the rate that it has played today. It has been terrible. Actively terrible. Send in the flyers. Now, if I play a Larcenist, it's just going to get Whirlpooled, but that's going to soak up 7 of their mana, like all their lands. 6 mana, plus they need to play another land and use it to Whirlpool if I keep the Larcenist untapped. So, yeah, we play the Larcenist and just make sure not to tap it, I guess. I guess I make my Boulder a treasure token. It ain't doing anything on board. And then I have the treasure to sack a Tinker's Tote. Yeah, we're just slowing down their damage. Let's choose the Gem Guard. They have to hold 5 mana up. No, 4 mana up to Whirlpool a tapped Larcenist. And they're hitting Petrify. That's definitely good. I guess it's not great against Larcenist, but just more removal is good. Oh, they are just going to Petrify Larcenist. Okay. So their card's just going to be a treasure forever, then. If I get to keep this thing on my board. So I guess they're just going to sack it. Use it for the mana to flip a landmark. Maybe. Maybe so, maybe not. I will take 5. So I can get full crackbacks here when they don't hold up any blocks on the ground. We just decommission the landmark and attack with everybody. Cash in the 3 life gain. I guess I can cash it in whenever because the Larcenist is going to stay on board, so I'll keep the treasure forever. Okay. Think I want to just decommission Jam for 3. And they have another landmark coming up. And then I'm not dealing with the 5/5. That 5/5 is an issue. I don't know what I'm actually doing here then. Probably still do have to get rid of the levitator. They should have 2 more removal spells coming up and a 5/5 on board. I guess I can block levitators forever with a 1/2, but then they're just going to pacify my 1/2. I don't like this very much, but I think I actually do have to kill the 5/5. And then just block 1/4s forever, so we force them to use removal on the 1/2 flyer. And then we helping hand it to have it again in the future, moderately soon. Maybe we can just get a wide enough board state to kill them here against a bunch of 1/1 removal spells. If we just have a ton of 1/1s, their removal is not going to be awesome. Alright, craft the other landmark. Petrify the siren, probably. Nope, there's no attacks, just chilling. That's fair, too. 1,000 Moons Infantry. Not a terrible draw. Would I rather have a 2/1 or a random spell that costs 4 or less? Probably a random spell. Yeah, I would certainly rather have a Cloud Guard, but this is going to draw removal anyway. I guess I can helping hand the Conservator. That's like the best helping hand thing that I might have here. I think I'm just playing an infantry this turn, though. We're just trying to get this board state wide enough. They're at 9. We can end up with more stuff than them. The 1/1 removal will not matter. Oh god, no. This card is sick. They need to have 5 non-land permanents, and they have to be able to tap them all without dying. But once they do, they just keep getting another artifact or creature every single time they cast one. Oh hey, Glyph Bridge? Well, that's really nice. So now we make it so they just have 1 levitator, and we just have 1 infantry. And then I can even helping hand the Larcenist to shut off their levitator for a second, but then they exile the Larcenist with their Quicksand Whirlpool. I guess they're still 1 mana off from doing that to an untapped Larcenist. Yeah, this seems pretty sick. I think we keep the 2/4 to hit harder here. We treasurify the levitator. For now. Chart a course. Draw 2, discard 1. They did not draw the land to save their levitator. Oh wait, the Larcenist comes back tapped. I'm a doofus. They do save the levitator. But we still got a swing out here and forced the removal to be used. So our 5/3 might stick around, which is a better card. in terms of power toughness, in terms of killing our opponent nice and quick. Send a message. Most important part. So we hit some busted stuff here these last couple draws, which is insanity. I'm pretty happy with that. Mainly just that glyph bridge there in the end was pretty wild for us. An iceberg is not a bad draw. Cogwork Wrestler. Don't think that matters. I guess they just get to chump more damage this turn. But it's not going to like find a free kill anywhere or anything, so. Far from the spookiest Cogwork Wrestler I've ever seen. Mill the hammer, draw the land. R.I.P. Sadness on the stack. Ooh. Hello there. That is going to be lethal when we have a 6/6 to swing in with. Not lethal right now. I could give this flying and then attack with both, but then they chump there, take 3, go to 2. They're still alive, so I'm not going to use it yet. I'm going to save this to try to give the 6/6 flying and win off that. More wrestlers. They're everywhere. They're angry. Kill the levitator here so that they are dead to one more Wanderglyph hit. I think that is reasonable to use that now instead of giving the 6/6 flying next turn. It's going to be kind of the same thing. There's the concession from our opponent. We have managed to crawl our way back up to a 3-2 run, 50-50 win rate no matter what, and we're getting 1,000 gems back out of the event, so we're not going to be that far down in value. So really nice to get the 3-0, 3 wins in a row after our 0-2 start, and hopefully we can keep it up as we head into round number 6. Here we are for game 6 with some powerhouse cards. The one flaw, of course, being our opponent is on the play. We don't start till turn 2, but hopefully having a nice board wipe like Glyph Bridge is going to be good enough, even if they are pretty aggressive. Turn 2 from our opponent, they're dropping a Compass Gnome off their double white start, so that can find their second color. And a cave if they're feeling fancy. They are going to find a green source. Just put a forest on top here, so they are green-white. Let's roll out with the Oaken Siren, because I can actually chip in the sky with this, but the Conservator's not going to do anything when they have a 2-1 on the ground. We don't want to just trade it into that. We want to wait till we have the 4 mana, ideally. Send in their 2-1, not trading a Siren here. Play a Malamet Brawler. Pass the turn. We've got an Acrobatic Leap. And a Quicksand Whirlpool to hold up. And Tishana's Tidebinder, so I guess I'm just gonna see what they do and do some kind of nonsense in response. Probably Tidebinder, ideally. Counter a good enter the battlefield effect. Okay, well, that's not gonna... Well, I mean, I counter the Explore ability, I guess. But that's all I do right now. It would be a Scry one and an Explore. Is it worth countering that? I don't think so. Might just Whirlpool the Brawler to buy some time. Although we've got a Glyph Bridge coming up, I probably shouldn't spend any 1-for-1 removal this early. They're drawing into a Dawn Runner. That's a really good one if they can get that creature to explore multiple times. Putting more and more counters onto a double striker. Oh. Or giving a double striker +2/+0 vigilance every turn. That's another terrifying option. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting Tidebinder makes the card lose its abilities as long as Tidebinder remains on the board. So we could turn this into a blank card, or the Twists and turns into a blank card. So that part is interesting. Okay, so I do have to draw another white source to play the Glyph Bridge, but that's all I need to draw because I do have 4 mana thanks to the Oaken Siren. So I think, might be a little greedy, but I think I try not to expend any resources on these cards right now and just take the damage. Because they're going to cast Dawn Runner next turn, and then we just get a bigger board wipe from there when we find the white source. I do need to play enough spells to survive until I find a second white source. There's that issue. I think I'm going to try to save the Tidebinder for post-board wipe now at this point. We cast 1 white spell, and the white spells are the important ones. Well, now even if the Siren dies, I can cast the double white Glyph Bridge if we hit the white source, so we're probably trading the Siren into the Gnome. So we want to find a blocker good enough for the Brawler, which is going to be the Thousand Moons Infantry. Alright, buff the Brawler. Unfortunate. I'm going to have 6 toughness, so they kill one of these without spending a combat trick, and spending a combat trick probably means they're not also playing the Dawn Runner. Alright, cool. 2-4 trades up. Runaway Boulder. Can't afford to wait. I mean, I guess I only need 1 more mana if I have Oaken Siren on board, so I guess I can afford to try to wait on that. If I never hit the second white source, I guess I do have to just spend all my 1-for-1 removal spells. Yeah, so I guess I'm just gonna Whirlpool. Just gonna Whirlpool the Dawn Runner, probably. Oh wait, it gives Vigilance, the Might of the Ancestors, so I can't Whirlpool it till I have 6 mana. So I have 2 6-mana removal spells. Oh my lord. They make it a 5/1 double striker with Vigilance, so it doesn't become tapped to the Whirlpool. Tidebinder, and they only have a 3/1 double striker at least. For now, kind of think I'm gonna have to. I guess I have to wait till the triggered ability goes on the stack, and then I can shut off one of these things forever. Well, not forever, as long as the Tidebinder's around. Oh, sick. All right, they're going to use 1 on each, which means I do get to use this one on the one that's going to target the Dawn Runner to stop that from happening. Targeting Kinjali's Dawn Runner. That one. I'm a little worried that even if I board wipe, they're going to have all this stuff sitting around, so if they draw into any creatures, they're immediately +4/+0 Vigilance later. And that is tremendously scary. Alright, we're one land from the boulder. Any land gets there. 2 lands from the whirlpool. And 1 plains from a glyph bridge. Well, a 4/4 is big enough to block a 3/1 double striker. Or a 5/1 vigilance, so we play a 4/4 here. But we're still desperate for 1 land. Oaken Siren has been incredibly important this game. Oh my god. We need a second white source yesterday. Now they have the world's largest double striker. And then even if we board wipe later, they have a 7/7 just waiting once they have 7 mana. Oh, this only shuts off artifacts and creatures for as long as it remains on the board? God dang it. Why do I have to print cards with 10 lines of text? Alright, that was an exaggeration. There are 8 lines of text on this card. Well, I have to chump. I guess since this thing isn't actually shutting off the might, we might as well chump with that one. Cloud Guard, you're not a land, you bum. Alright. Now... if I cycle the boulder looking for a white source and I find a blue source, that is so bad. Because then I don't have the boulder to kill the Dawn Runner anymore. Ay. Let's just get a 1/1 gnome to chump block with, I guess. If they have the +3/+3 trample deck, the game is super duper over. There's a poison dart frog. That doesn't change things too much. I guess I don't get to keep poking them with Siren anymore, because we need this thing around to cast our boulder. And they could death touch the frog up to trade. Buff the Vanguard. I mean, the frog's already just going to trade into one of our flyers, so I guess we might as well force them to cash in a Vanguard ability here. Well... you know, there's no way. With 5 first strike damage, there's no way to kill the Dawn Runner here. If I block with my whole board, they first strike away the 4/4 and the 1/1. I guess if I block with my whole board, I kill the Dawn Runner, but then I'm dying to the other stuff still. And I'm losing my entire board. Dawn Runner kills every single creature I have, even if we kill Dawn Runner on the crackback. Yeah, I'm just going to do this. Oh, sack the Steedstones. Alright, so now they don't have a backup 7/7 if we can resolve our board wipe, which is quite nice. Well, I am very glad I didn't cycle the boulder. I can Whirlpool the Vanguard to exile the creature they could be giving Indestructible to. If I do that, though, I am going to have to chump block with a 4/4 now and be left with only an Oaken Siren at this point. I think I have to just boulder right now. I guess either way, I'm going to have to chump block next turn. Most likely. I guess Oaken Siren trading into the Dart Frog is not the end of the world now, because then they have nothing left to sack to the Vanguard. And this is the last spell I need Oaken Siren mana for. I guess flipping the mural could use the mana if I hit one more land. 7 mana would help flip it. Yeah, I guess there was that to keep in mind. But I kind of like getting another creature off this board, because any of these creatures can be a 5/1 Vigilance. So now they only have a Vanguard on board, with nothing to give it indestructible with. So they can make it an 8-power Vigilance creature, but I can just trade on blocks. Not against removal, but that's their last card now. I guess they're only 1 land away from flipping this and drawing extra cards off the Mycoid Maze. They have nothing to sack to give the Vanguard indestructible now. I think I have to Glyph Bridge and save the Whirlpool for something else, because this can actually turn into a creature next turn, even if I don't hit another land. They hit a Brawler. Any creature matters a lot here, so that's not good for us. Any creature can kill us, especially one that can give itself trample. So we have to removal spell that. We have to have a white and 2 up for a Whirlpool. And I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So I could spend 4 mana on whatever I want. But I have a 7 mana spell and a 5 mana spell. So I can't do anything here. I can only Whirlpool. So we just Whirlpool. There's 1 card in the set that could give Hexproof here to the Brawler. Guess I play around that. Oh yeah, and it wouldn't become tapped because the Vigilance things doesn't matter anyway. Now they've got the card draw engine. It's looking like it probably took us infinitely too long to find our lands here, but we'll see. Literally any creature they draw here is at least a 5/1 Vigilance off this Mycoid Maze. But if it doesn't have trample, I can keep trading off 4/4s every single turn if we flip our Guide Mural. So we're just hoping they don't hit another Malamet Brawler, just hit a non-trampling creature if they hit something that costs 3 or less. If it costs more than 3, we're fine. Okay, so Cavern Stomper costs way more than 3. So they're not playing it this turn, so now we flip the Guide Mural. So that every time we play an artifact, we're getting an additional blocker, so we can have as many as possible. I'll keep the Boulder on my board to sack to the Glorifier, and we'll exile some nonsense from our grave that doesn't matter much. Only matters for our 1 Graveyard Recursion card. Alright, no attacks this turn, because they're just going to cast a Cavern Stomper. And then I'll have multiple chump blockers for it, despite how big it's going to be. If they find Trample Trick, I'll die, but hopefully they don't. And we can try to just kill them in just a few swings with a 5/3 flyer. Next turn I get to flip a 5/3 flyer, make another 4/4 blocker, buff the 4/4s so it's 10/10s on the ground if I want. Probably rather make a 6-power flyer and a 5/5 on the ground. And I get to maybe hold up Acrobatic Leap? I'm actually not sure. How much mana I'm left with, let's see. Flip this. No, I don't get to hold up Acrobatic Leap when I do this. I can try to kill them in one hit next turn, maybe. If we get a next turn. And now they can only cast a spell or attack, so they can't use a combat trick. They can't attack and then give +3/+3 trample, and they can't give +3/+3 trample and then attack. So Wanderglyph actually does shut off the staggering size as an out for our opponent of 1 and a green +3/+3 trample. Alright, Petrify. They still don't get to attack this turn, but now we don't get to attack back either. Which means they just use the Mycoid Maze instead. It's actually really nice for them to have a mana sink against the Wanderglyph. So if they want to attack, they can still dump all their mana into a Mycoid Maze. So they're still doing something with their mana on the turns in which they're not casting spells. Okay, let's discover something good here, shall we? Hopefully something that puts an artifact on the board. Puts an artifact on board. Big deal. Big deal here. And even with a pacified Wanderglyph, they can't combat trick. They're just straight up not allowed. They're drawing into a Dawnrunner off the Mycoid Maze. They can play removal spells, but they can't play combat tricks. I can have 2 blockers up. My Summoning Sick 4/4 and then an Acrobatic Leaped creature. So I attack with everybody, I leap whatever they block so that it's untapped as a blocker, and I hit them for like 7 damage this turn and then try to lethal them next. I think that's a reasonable line. Because if they play another creature to have more blockers up, that means they're not attacking. Okay. So I attack with everybody, I lose none of my attackers, and I still have 2 blockers up. And we just try to get 2 creatures in for 8 damage next turn. So they can't attack because they are playing the creature. But now they do have enough blockers to not just die. They block these 2 and take 7, go to 1. But next turn I'm playing a 6/6 and a 4/4, which is a huge deal. Six and a 4/4 and a 3/3 blocker. Yeah, we attack with everybody. Sack a 5/5 to get in for 7. Have multiple blockers that they have to do some chumping here to not die unless they have a removal spell at instant speed. Then I might just lose. Six plus 3. I do have enough mana to Iceberg plus Minecart. Do I have any artifacts left in grave, though? Yes, there's a boulder in there. Okay, I was about to say, so they do have the removal then, but then they moved their block around. Because they blocked in a way where they were going to take 8 damage. And then they're like, never mind. I've actually double-checked my life total real quick, and I'm going to change blocks. And Minecart Manufactory is actually insane. If we somehow don't kill them next turn, but we keep getting attacks in, the Minecart guarantees we have a treasure entering the battlefield every turn. For the Manufactory. Alright, I've got 3 blockers up still. I have a 4/4, 6/6, and a 3/3 Minecart getting crewed off the Wanderglyph, and our opponent concedes the game. We have crawled our way back into decent value. We are at 4 and 3 at worst. The break-even point, basically, of Premier Drafts. We're at 1,400 gems and 3 packs as our prizes out of the 1,500 gem event. 0-2 into 4-0, baby. We'll see if we can keep it up heading into round number 7. Here we are for game 7. Little high on mana here, but I love me a turn 1 Spyglass Siren, so I'm going to see how that works out for us. Another blue deck, starting with a Waterlogged Hulk, so probably like blue-black or blue-green, one of the Descend archetypes, trying to fill that graveyard with a bunch of permanents to flip this, get an unblockable vehicle later. Can be pretty spooky. So we're going to jam in for 1 and drop our 2/1 onto the board. Their first mill is a Waterwind Scout, the premium common in blue. And it is blue-black. There's a Skullcap Snail, but luckily for us, we've got plenty to ditch. If I ditch the island, then I can't cast the iceberg thing, and if I ditch the plains, I can't cast the board wipe. I'm going to keep the plains. We've got a minecart that could help get us out of any mana screw later as well. So we'll have a treasure or 2 left behind to try to use to solve that kind of stuff. Drawn to a Tidebinder, but pretty tempted to just get the minecart onto the board. And I think I'm going to do that, because that's going to help me cast a lot more stuff in 1 turn later, potentially. And I'm going to keep in mind all 8 lines of text on this card this time. So if they play an artifact or creature with a good enter the battlefield or triggered ability, and I counter that ability, I will also make that card have no text for the rest of the game. So we'll keep that in mind. But it looks like I don't have to keep that in mind, because we're just going to use it so they don't draw a card off Puzzle Door. Because we see a perfect, super reasonable opportunity to use it. And we'll probably do it for that. Go ahead and use our map, see what happens. Do hit a non-land, and it's not one I really like here, so I'm just going to mill the 2/4. Now we've got a 2/2 flyer in the sky, which is awesome. I guess if I want with Tidebinder, I could just shut off the Waterlogged Hulk entirely. But they did already get to Descend 4 with it. I guess if I countered that ability, they'd still be at 3 permanents in grave. But Descend 4 is kind of the critical mass for them. There's a bunch of cards that want 4 permanents in the grave, and a bunch that want 8. And since they're already at the 4, I don't think I'm trying to shut off the Hulk. Even if I did shut it off last turn, they'd be at the 3, and then the Puzzle Door would be the 4th. And our opponent just hates their Puzzle Door ability getting countered by the Tidebinder. So they're going to concede, and we are now surprisingly in the money, and it is now guaranteed that this deck, where we were pretty heavily contested in the draft pot, I think, has done better than our last blue-black deck that we drafted that I think was looking pretty wide open. I mean, we ended the draft with like 50 cards, 55 cards in our deck or something, because basically every pick got to be on color because nobody was drafting the black stuff. So yeah, very weak, a lot of filler blue-white deck, still gonna get a better win rate and more prizes than the really solid looking blue-black Descend deck, which is kind of sad, but it is solid for us today in terms of just getting solid value. Current Gauntlet can be happy, but grand scheme of things, Gauntlet, for what that means for the format, that is a little sad, a little disappointing. Here we are now for game number 8. Surprisingly, we've made it this far. Our opponents on the plan, we're not actually playing anything until turn 3, so we could just die, but our turn 3 and onward plays are really good defensively. Multiple 1/1s, a 3/2 and a 1/1. Those cards are great. The Helping Hand is not. Kind of feels like we already mulliganed by having the Helping Hand in the opener. This has been the biggest underperformer, worst card in the deck by a ton. And our opponent is red-white aggro. That is a deck that's really good at spitting out a ton of permanents and using them to get extra damage with cards like Sunshot Militia or extra card draw with cards like Caparocti Sunborn. So that's pretty scary. I'm going to drop the Tote here so I can trade in all these 1/1s if they send them in at all. Force them to just use them for the Militia here. There's a Scampering Surveyor for some mana ramp, as well as a 3/2. Pulls out of Plains. Looks like they only had one cave in their deck, just the Hidden Volcano, so they couldn't pull that out with the Surveyor at least. Double shoot with the Militia and send in with the 1/3 body? No, they do not send in with the 1/3 body. That's a little surprising. Well, now we've got that turn 4 Cloud Guard, and we can throw a hammer onto it and start hitting them for 4 in the sky every turn. Immediately start out racing them if they don't have removal. Compared to what's currently on board, they still have tons of cards in hand. Ew, and one is Magmatic Galleon. Played a lot of Magmatic Galleons during the early access and very early in the format, and the card has always been phenomenal. I don't know if I've lost a game that I've cast it. It has been deceptively good. 5 mana to shoot something for 5 and get a treasure token, and any other burn removal spells you use will give you more treasure tokens, and you have a 5/5 on board now that crews for only 2. So the card just does so much stuff. For 5 mana, the card is an exceptional bomb rare. I have very much enjoyed my time playing it. Unfortunately, it might just be killing me here. So now, play another Tote and gain some life or something. Could equip a hammer so I can blow up the Galleons so they don't get the 5/5 beat stick anymore, but then I'm still getting like shredded by the Sunshot Militia. Not super sure what I'm supposed to do here. I don't think any of our options are great. I guess I'll just get the hammer at the ready, blow up the Galleon at least. Plus I'm threatening to have a 2/2 to block the 3/2 if they're trying to declare attacks, but it doesn't look like they are. When they have the Militia on board, they don't have to attack at all. They can just keep tapping their whole board every turn. Hotfoot Gnome, very adorable card, very bad against 1/1s though. So they're just going to ping for another point of damage. We are now down to 9, and we'll dump our mana into killing that Galleon for the future. Another mana means we can get a 4/4 blocker here, but without being able to deal with the Militia, we will just be getting pinged to death eventually. I've got at least 6 points of life gain available from 2 copies of Tinker's Tote, so there's that. But I really can't afford to attack at all, and I don't think we're really getting anywhere. I'm incredibly okay with them abrading that, since it's not going to do anything until we have 7 mana, and we're not really going to live till we have 7 mana. So it kind of just feels like discarding a braid for fun, really, at this point. Yeah, this game is not lasting till we have 7 mana, especially without a 6th in the hand. So I can use the Larcenist to turn the Militia into a treasure token, so if they don't have more removal, and this is where playing that Abrade is going to work really bad for them if they don't have more removal, then this does stall the game out for us. We can Tinker's Tote to gain some life to stick around here. But if they have multiple Abrades, then it doesn't really matter. So there's Caparocti Sunborn. Unfortunately, another creature that we kind of have to kill immediately or we lose, because it's going to discover every single time it attacks, and they do have the haste ability for it, and we can't kill it. So now we're going to die to Sunborn. Find a Deconstruction Hammer, buff their board, and get more damage in. Let's gain the 3 so I don't have to trade into Larcenist. What happens if I do? I trade into Larcenist, they get Sunshot Militia back, which can then shoot us for 1, 2, 3 damage. So we go down to 3 there. But then I can Helping Hand the Larcenist and shut it off again. I don't know if I'm going to have enough stuff left on board to survive another turn after that, but that does feel like our best bet. Go down to 3 and then just deal with the militia again. Guess I can play a Tinker's Tote and gain a few more life alongside the Helping Hand. I've got exactly enough mana. That's probably enough blockers to get another turn here. Definitely not enough to declare any attacks, though. Dig off the hidden volcano, see what they find. Oh my god, they have a Quintorius in there? Luckily, Quintorius is 1 mana too much to be discovered off their lands. This deck is busted. This is a high tier queue right now. In the ladder, they're like, alright, you got 5 wins in a row. Let's get some quality in here. Send in the team. I'm essentially at 6 here. Take 4, go to 2. Play a 2/4 to block these 2/2s, but then they can double up both equipments onto 1 and make them a 3/3. Do that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm completely out of blockers if I trade 2 1/1s into one of their gnomes that has +1/+1 right now. Don't think that's great. I think I just do that, and I tote it up. Three blockers for their 3 attackers now. Can play an Oaken Siren and an Infantry for 2 more blockers. And hope the infantry's big enough to hold them off here. I think that's a reasonable thing to go for. It's our only way to make 2 more blockers. I could play like Iceberg plus Glorifier, sack the Iceberg to buff up my current blockers, which is also probably pretty reasonable. Mischievous Pup. What can that do here? That can pick up their treasure. They decide not to, though. I was gonna say, that could have just killed us immediately. They could have picked up the Sunshot Militia and then replayed it, because it's not a treasure token, it's just a treasure. So if they pick it up and replay it, they shoot me for 2. So we're much happier to see them pick up Tinker's Toad. It's still not good for us, but at least it's not literal lethal like it would have been. That's an obvious 1/1 trade into the 3/1 here. Well, I mean, this is gotta be a combat trick in hand, right? They're trying to kill my 2/4, I guess? What is going on? I don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna do this. I'm doing this because they just missed lethal, so it might just be another little punt, and it looks like a little punt. Maybe they have Graveyard Recursion, and they're gonna do that to pick up the Militia now. Maybe that's what it is. They realize the punt. They have their own Helping Hand. They're gonna use the Helping Hand. Well, no, if they had their own Helping Hand, they could crack the Militia for a white source and then Helping Hand it back. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Let's play the iceberg. Oh, milled a spyglass siren. Did draw an acrobatic leak, which is something. They have a deconstruction hammer on board, so I'm not convinced that flipping this iceberg is going to be that great anyway. They just kill the 6/6 soon. So I'm going to sack the iceberg to get some immediate +1/+1 counters for better blocks. And I want to spread them out here. Well, maybe I do just put them on the flyers, and that's 5 damage, so that's a 4-turn clock. That's something. They have 5 attackers, we have 5 blockers. And we're hanging on by a thread here. There were infinite ways we could have died turns ago, and there's infinite ways we can die next turn. So let's make the most of all the time we have left here. It's like just a general life philosophy kind of game. There's the reliquary. So they have finally saved the militia. Although they could have done so earlier. So we'll just die now. Alright. That will end it. Sunshot Militia doing Sunshot Militia things. That is 5 and 3 for today's draft. So here is another look at the deck. I think 5 and 3 is definitely a great record for this deck. I think we ended up with a lot of filler and not the greatest curve, not the greatest cards in general. We would want more 1 and 2 drops, and ideally some that impact the board more than like an iceberg that doesn't actually work as a creature on that turn. The Conservator's pretty filler as well, so our cheap cards are not the greatest. There are some great cards we could have had, like Miner's Hawks and the 1-mana 1/1 flying lifelinkers and stuff like that that could fit in here. Didn't get any of the 3-mana 2/2 flyers that make a map token. A lot of lower card quality when it comes to our commons and uncommons here that are kind of exemplified by having like 2 6-mana removal spells in the deck and 2 kind of dirty combat tricks. And then the worst card in the deck, the Helping Hand, with such a I don't know, such an inconsistent way to get those creatures in grave. Like, sure, we have 9 creatures that are small enough to end up in the grave, but we just had this in hand a lot of times without it doing anything, so Helping Hand was pretty awful. But what it does lack in common and uncommon quality, it does make up for with some bombs, primarily Unstable Glyph Bridge and Kitesail Larcenist, helping us out a lot and definitely winning some games for us. Tidebinder was interesting. I don't know if I'd pick one pack one it again, but I think it was reasonable. It's pretty good against the Puzzle Door, and that was a pretty popular card that we were playing against today. And if I wrap my head around all this text, then I probably could have found some better uses for it as well, since it does shut off all the abilities of artifacts or creatures that you counter, as long as this stays on the board. So there were probably some interesting opportunities to use it even better. It's just a little confusing, a little perplexing to try to wrap your head around there. So overall, really not disappointed with a 5-3 run for this deck. I am a little disappointed that this deck did better than our last one, our Blue-Black Descent deck, though. But yeah, great stuff, great record overall, and that is going to be 5 and 3, 1,600 gems, and 4 packs for the prizes. Straight on up in value. We basically got 100 gems and 4 packs for free while getting to play out the draft. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.